Hello to you all, and welcome to Behind the Music. My name's Andrew Chung, artistic producer of London Symphonia. And today I've got a special guest. We've got Stewart Goodyear. Good morning, Stewart.
Good morning.
And this is ahead of our concert, Rhythms of the City. We're just delighted that Stewart's able to join us for a lot of music in this particular program. He'll be performing Gershwin's Rhapsody in Blue and an additional piece, Walking the Dog, and also his very own piano quartet for piano and three string players. Stewart, a little bit of a funny story. Just by way of introduction, we've never really met before, but my mother was cleaning out her basement. She had a pile of stuff, moved over to my basement, and on the top of that was a very old program from back in 1989. And I had done a piano exam and done fairly well. I was really chuffed and went down for a medal ceremony down at the Royal Conservatory of Music. And after receiving this medal, there were some performances. And one of those people was yourself, an 11-year-old Stewart Goodyear. And, while I was playing like a two-part Bach invention, you were performing an impromptu by Chopin and your own prelude by an 11-year-old Stewart Goodyear. So there's very early evidence that you were indeed composer and performer. I don't suppose you still know this piece, your prelude?
I know it well.
Oh, you do.
Quite well.
Oh, very cool. It's made a reappearance at some point, I guess.
Well, it was interesting. Yeah, a lot of the compositions that I remember composing back when I was around 10 or 11, I was still trying to find my style, and there were many I guess centuries that I was experimenting with, and I think that was my Scriabin phase that was going on with that prelude. But yeah, I
Love it.
remember being so excited to play that work every single time, and it was my chance to express myself as a composer to audiences, and that has never left me.
That's amazing. And since that time, you've traveled the globe, you performed with all of these incredible major orchestras around the world, and we're just thrilled to have you join us in London.
Thank you.
So this particular program started off, our conversation was like we're thinking a chamber concert, and you had mentioned this piano quartet. We were thinking maybe it would be a concert of piano quartets, but then it sort of ballooned into a larger thing, and I looked at your recorded catalog, and it looked like you had done this recent recording of the Rhapsody in Blue. And a couple of our great supporters, Renee Silberman and Ted Medson from Serenata Music, they've supported this concert, and they wanted to bring an international Canadian performer to perform with London Symphonia musicians. So this is a great opportunity for our people and for London to hear and see you. So, as a composer pianist, I'm just curious, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to showcase pianistically what you can do and different things you do? Are you trying to extend the techniques of the concert pianist?
Um, it really depends on the piece that I'm writing. For example, the piano quartet was not written for myself on the piano part. It was written for the Clarosa Quartet,
Oh,
and it was premiered at the Kingston Chamber Music Festival. So a lot of it just had to do with what I felt in my heart, what excited me as a composer, what sights and sounds motivated me to write and pay homage to, and that governed the piano quintet. When I'm writing a piano concerto or a solo vehicle, it's been tough because I'm thinking to myself, all right, am I composing as a virtuoso or am I composing as a composer? There's always that give and take that goes on. And especially because I have so many concertos in my repertoire, I'm thinking to myself, you know what? I think I'm just going to make it easy on myself and compose it like I was composing for another um, performer. And that inspires me because, it takes me in a way out of myself, and it gives me that freedom to interpret even my own music.
Hmm. But then you composed a recent do we call it a concerto? This is the Callaloo Suite,
Yes, yes.
and that but
It is, it has a concerto length, but I call it a suite.
yes, but that is very much Stewart Goodyear, right? Like
Oh
that's
yes, that's very all the compositions I'm writing now are to me very personal
mhm,
and very and come from a lot of my heritage, which is half Trinidadian, half British. So there's always that spice that is in a lot of my compositions, including the Piano Quartet. Callaloo was very much like a postcard to my last visit to Trinidad. I'm way overdue. I need to go back and
mhm.
see my relatives again, my aunts and uncle. But yes, I was there for Carnival. I've never experienced Carnival before, and just taking in the sights and sounds, seeing the Panorama Festival for the first time, seeing soca, and really exploring the history of Trinidad. They kept up the tradition of dances from centuries past, and that motivated me to write a cadenza that pays homage to that past, as well as soca, as well as the mento, as well as a ballad that is, that particular kind of calypso was made famous by Harry Belafonte, and he really loved that style of calypso. So I pay homage to that in the third movement, and it's really just my love of Trinidad, my love of my heritage, and I wanted to write a work that was calypso inspired for a very, very long time, and it just came together in 2016.
I just think that particular piece, we'll have to bring you back to perform that. That is just a knockout, but we need a much bigger orchestra for that. It's a great piece. I've really enjoyed
Thank
it.
you.
And so you know what, has there been was that discovery of Trinidadian music and that real deep exploration, was that more of a recent thing for you or
Oh, it was deep in my childhood. So
all right?
when I was five, that was my first visit to Trinidad, and every summer I would go and see my cousins and just hear this incredible calypso music. So it was a part of my blood, and definitely
Awesome.
not a recent thing. I think the recent thing was just, everything just came together at the right time. I was writing something that was calypso inspired, and there was a lot of false starts, and I felt like, yeah, just like Tchaikovsky with the Capriccio Italian, he had to actually be there
Mm.
and experience the flavor for himself. And I think that was the missing ingredient, just being
Uh,
there and just being a part of that atmosphere.
and so have you noticed a little bit of a shift over the last few years? I mean, earlier in your professional career, you were so renowned for the Beethoven works, right? Like being able to perform all these 32 piano sonatas in a single day, and you've recorded them and recorded as concertos. And are there more requests now for your own compositions and to mix that into the programming?
There are, and which delights me deeply. And I've been commissioned to write a new piano concerto that will be premiered by myself in the Albany Symphony in October. And there's been a lot of word of mouth with a lot of organizations asking me whether or not I would contribute an original work for their series, for their program. So it's been wonderful.
That's awesome. So tell me a little bit about the recording with where you recorded Rhapsody in Blue fairly recently. This is a 2019 release. And this is performing with conductor Wayne Marshall and the
Chineke,
Chineke
yeah.
Foundation or the Chineke Orchestra. So as I understand, their reason for being is to champion change and celebrating diversity in classical music, providing opportunity for Black and ethnically diverse performers to come together. Tell me about this experience.
It was fantastic. They're wonderful musicians, wonderful individuals, great human beings, and it was a pleasure and privilege to work with all of them. And to meet Wayne for the first time. I knew of Wayne since I was 12 years old. When I first visited London, the cover of his new recording at the time, his recording of Rhapsody in Blue was on the shelf. So I'm thinking to myself, all right, who is this dapper gentleman? Let me see what his interpretation is like. And my interpretation is completely different from his, but somehow there was a meeting of the minds, and hopefully we were inspired by each other. I was definitely inspired by him, his drive, and how he would interpret the tutti of Rhapsody in Blue. So we
Right.
created an organic collaboration from there, and it was a very exciting experience.
That's terrific. That's terrific. Um, and and yeah, there is definitely a give and take, I guess, when you're putting together a recording and sharing a vision, and you say he's recorded it as well,
Yeah.
which I didn't know. Okay, great. And did that take place across a number of days, this particular thing, or was it?
This was very intense because it was 1 day of
Wow.
recording, no, 2 days of recording the Rhapsody in Blue and then Callaloo.
Wow.
And originally, it was supposed to be a Gershwin dominated album. So it was supposed to be Rhapsody in Blue, Concerto in F, and my Callaloo. But there wasn't enough time to do the Concerto in F. So we did Rhapsody in Blue, we did Callaloo, and spent a good deal of time just getting that just right. And I was thinking to myself, all right, how on earth am I going to complete this album? What should I do? And I went to my past, and I wrote this piano sonata when I was a teenager, and it was a work that I'm still very proud of. And it was that opus that I felt like I had my original voice finally, something that I could call my own. And it was very much inspired by the rhythms of Philadelphia. I studied there at the Curtis Institute, and I also attended Friends Select Schools. So it was interesting experiencing two different sound worlds: the sound world of Curtis, which at the time was very much rooted in the tradition of Brahms, Beethoven, and Mozart, from that environment, and then going to my high school where Smashing Pumpkins, Snoop Dogg, and a lot of and Nine Inch Nails was being
Right,
performed. So,
right.
combining that world and just breaking the wall of those two sound worlds was what inspired the piano sonata.
That's awesome. I love it. Great album.
Thanks.
Just a great mix of stuff, and so it's so great to see your stuff so well represented on that album. So the Rhapsody in Blue, it's not a stranger to change into to arrangements. And Gershwin himself had a solo piano version, which maybe you've played, and two piano version. Have you played these or?
I haven't played the solo piano version, but it's wonderfully done.
Cool, very cool. And so originally composed for Paul Whiteman's jazz band and Gershwin as soloist. And so for this concert, we have another arranger, Jeff Christmas, a Londoner, composer and arranger, and he's done this arrangement for the ensemble that we had assembled for this concert for the chamber music elements. And so I think it's 12 players and yourself. So I'm interested to hear this new arrangement.
I'm really
The music,
excited.
yeah, the music will be, of course, Gershwin and unmistakable and full length. So and we're pairing that with your quartet. So let's dive into that a little bit. So, did you have that particular pianist in mind of the name of the ensemble again?
Clarosa Quartet.
So the
Yes, I
Clarosa
had
Quartet,
all of the players in mind, and
right?
the way that they would play, the way that they would work together.
Hmm. And so they commissioned the work.
They commissioned work, yes.
Okay, and then so when I was listening through this, I don't hear. I mean, I'm not Trinidadian, so I don't really hear the Trinidadian influence. But you say that there is that spice
There's
throughout it.
always that element, it's not, sometimes it's very much direct, sometimes it's very indirect and very subtle.
Right. So it's in four movements. Give me a
Four
little bit
moves.
of highlights, maybe like one highlight per movement. So like that
Oh,
first
wonderful.
movement, that scherzo, I hear this rhythmic figure going through that. Maybe that's
Yeah. It's very urban, and that actually is inspired by Philadelphia. All of the members are based in Philadelphia, so very much contemporary Philadelphia.
I
The
hear that
second,
cityscape. I hear it, so
yes,
much.
absolutely, yeah.
It's awesome. It's awesome.
The second movement is just a dance movement, very much inspired by the minuets that composers wrote for chamber organizations.
Hmm.
The third movement is, I think, the closest that I ever came to paying homage to Brahms, and that
Right.
very expansive, soaring statement that
Yes.
Brahms is famous for, rightly so.
Oh, I
And
just
then,
hear it, that long kind of long frame, the
yes,
sonorities and this brooding, intensity. It's just great. It's beautiful.
thank you. And then the
Fourth
finale is
movement.
like a summing up of what happened before, and it pays tribute to the first movement, the motor secondary theme is there, the ostinato, and then some of the themes from the first movement, allusions to the second movement, a great fanfare um, repetition of the third movement, and it ends in a flourish.
Very cool. Lots of changing meter in that last movement.
Yeah.
I was just curious how you make those decisions, to change time signatures so frequently, bar to bar or every few bars. Is it more that what you've got in your head that, and then you just find the time signature to match, or is that how it
Well,
works?
exactly. It's a lot of it has to do with gut feeling and head. Just thinking, from an architectural standpoint, what works, timing, emotional content, all of these things I'm thinking about. But I'm thinking about that in my head. But once I'm writing, everything has to come seamlessly.
Mm,
So I'm not overthinking it, and it's just about through composed elements.
it's great. Yeah, really looking forward to hearing you perform that. So on to the Gershwin. Let's touch on that for our last few minutes. So um, it's an iconic piece of music. To slip into the Gershwin style, how do you prepare for this?
Um, Close my eyes and think of New York.
Mm,
To me, I feel like every time I hear Rhapsody in Blues, I always see New York. I see Times Square. I see the people crossing the street and how people relate to one another. I see cab drivers. I see subways.
yeah.
And there is an attitude of New York that is celebrated in Rhapsody in Blue. And then, with every city, there's always, I always bring up the idea of a place having a flavor. In New York, that flavor has never left since, I think, since 1890. There was always that attitude and that speed and
Mm,
that sense of driving to the next destination. And
wow.
I hear that a lot in
Hmm.
Rhapsody in Blue. Even in the lyrical sections, there's always that syncopation
Hmm.
that drives it forward.
Hmm. And it allows you to embrace abrupt changes within this piece
Absolutely, absolutely.
to their
It's
maximum.
definitely an embrace of cultures and people just living together. I think that was another thing. There were no walls, there were no separations between people,
Mm,
and I think ultimately it's that union of people because of their love of music and um, their heartbeat that we all share, and that rhythm that just inspire inspires us all to just get up and dance and
Yeah.
celebrate each other.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Um, and and when I think of Gershwin's piano music, and I did stop piano as a middle-aged teenager, trust me. But I hear this pitter patter sound, this repeated notes sound. It seems to me just very much his style. It was that created really by him. That style of playing.
Um, I think it was. I think Gershwin's pianism was a combination of a lot of things. Gershwin was an incredible improviser. His background of Tin Pan Alley, of Broadway, as well as the sound world of the symphony orchestra was so much a part of who Gershwin was and what really inspired him. So, and I think he also did not believe in walls because every work that he did, of course, there is that Broadway element, but it's so seamless. It's not like, we're quoting something from the classical world and putting it in the Broadway world or vice versa. It's like we're all coming together and creating the world of Gershwin.
Hmm. And you mentioned he was such a great improviser, and there's so much solo piano material within this, cadenza like.
Yeah.
Is there room to improvise for you in this?
There is, but I love the fact that it's so beautifully composed that nothing needs to be added or taken away.
Yeah,
So I love the possibilities of interpretation within exactly what Gershwin wrote. And
right.
I think for me as an interpreter, that's what I love about playing works as diverse as Rachmaninoff, Prokofiev. There's always something within yourself that you bring to those composers, as well as learning about who they were, what they heard in their head, and their language. Swallowing all that information like a capsule, but then also bringing yourself. There's always that sense that it is improvisatory in a way that every performance is very different, a different experience, and you're collaborating with the cosmos, I guess. The
Right.
audience, the vibe of the venue, the other musicians who I'm going to be appearing with as well. All that is going to create another level for me in interpreting a work like the Rhapsody in Blue.
Right. So but you keep your interpretation to the notes on the page.
Yeah,
You don't go off that road, but within that, there's plenty of room for freedom and for, a
absolutely.
dynamic performance.
Yeah.
Well, this has been great speaking with you today, Stuart. Thanks for joining me. Really
Likewise. Thank
looking
you very
forward to this
much.
concert. Yeah. So
Me
this
too.
is Rhythms of the City. This is April 30th. We'll be performing this live streamed, live and in person from First St. Andrew's United Church in London, Ontario. And this is great. Thanks so much again,
My
Stuart.
pleasure. Thank you.
Okay, cheers.
Cheers.